Have you ever wondered what the Vatican hides behind its imposing walls? What lies beyond the golden domes and charitable smiles? Few dare to imagine that, at the heart of this spiritual fortress, there exists a figure more powerful, and perhaps darker, than any visible pope, the Grey Pope. Esotericism, occultism, pacts, and rituals form the intricate chessboard of this enigmatic figure. And what about the entities he is said to have summoned? Today, we will delve into the deepest layers of this legendary figure and understand how he secretly shaped history. The Vatican, this true fortress of Christianity, harbors mysteries that challenge even the most skeptical minds. Behind closed doors lie corridors no one traverses without permission. It is there that the influence of the Grey Pope materializes, subtle yet overwhelming. He operated behind the scenes, masterfully pulling the strings. Imagine hidden documents, secret midnight rituals, and pacts made with leaders of various occult orders. This invisible layer of history reminds us that power is never as simple as it seems. Here, the supernatural isn't just a legend, it's a tool. Rumors suggest that the Grey Pope mastered invocation practices to communicate with entities from other dimensions. His esoteric knowledge made him a strategist ahead of his time, capable of predicting the Church's moves and those of external enemies. What we know is that his influence extended far beyond the Vatican walls. Historical documents speak of secret orders that revered him in clandestine cults. If this all sounds like fiction, it might be because the most important truths are always kept from public view. The secret tunnels beneath Vatican City are a fascinating topic. Accounts indicate that these underground labyrinths were used not only to safeguard confidential documents but also to conduct occult ceremonies. The Grey Pope, with his expertise in occultism and Gnosticism, reportedly used these passages to shape historical events far from the crowds. Imagine an invisible leader, forging alliances and crafting narratives while remaining unsuspected. This supernatural power, cloaked in faith, became a strategic weapon that endured for generations. Curiously, many believe the Grey Pope had access to forbidden texts, guarded for centuries in the Vatican's secret archives. These texts, they say, contained invocation rituals capable of summoning entities to influence the course of history. The Church, while preaching the dogma of faith, hid practices that could undermine its very foundations. This duality is what makes studying his figure so intriguing, a constant dance between divine power and the occult. Why has the Vatican never revealed this figure to the public? Perhaps because the existence of the Grey Pope contradicts everything the Church represents on its surface. At the same time, his importance in pivotal moments of history cannot be denied. Esotericism, pacts, rituals, and supernatural manipulations were used as tools of power. He was a covert strategist, an architect of invisible moves that shaped the destiny of faith. Who would dare question the weight of such a secret? Moving into the next chapter of this saga, we begin to understand that every decision made by the Grey Pope during his era was intrinsically tied to the global events of the time. The shadows of power never fully dissipate, they adapt and renew. From the heights of the Vatican's towers to the deepest catacombs, the game was played on multiple fronts, always with a clear intention, to control the Church's destiny. Now, we approach an era when his power manifested most intensely, the age of the Counter-Reformation. During the 16th century, the Council of Trent marked a historic milestone, and the roles played behind the scenes are as enigmatic as they are revealing. The Grey Pope, a veiled figure, is said to have been the true architect of the Counter-Reformation strategies. While the world witnessed religious decisions, he manipulated alliances and forged pacts with political and occult leaders to protect the supremacy of the Church. His actions ranged from secret rituals to predict the movements of his adversaries to clandestine meetings where strategies to eliminate threatening ideologies were discussed. It was like a chess game, with every piece carefully positioned. The Grey Pope used his vast network of influence to consolidate the Church's unity against the advance of reformist currents. Historical documents indicate that secret tribunals were created under his guidance, where faith was reinforced through invisible judgments. Imagine a council within the council, where the supernatural intertwined with politics. The entities summoned in these rituals were, according to rumors, consulted to guide strategic decisions. He did not merely respond to the Protestant threat, he dismantled it before it could gain momentum. His vision transcended the obvious, reaching levels that few dared to explore. The pacts he forged during this time were more than simple political alliances. It is said that the Grey Pope used occult knowledge to seal agreements that benefited the Church in unexpected ways. For instance, there are accounts of treaties formalized during ceremonies filled with esoteric symbolism, involving leaders who otherwise would never have agreed to the Vatican's demands. For him, victory was not merely a matter of faith but of supernatural strategy. His ability to blend the worldly with the spiritual made his actions nearly impossible to predict. The Grey Pope's moves were calculated with impressive precision. He understood that the strength of an idea lay in its dissemination, so he worked to suppress reformist texts and movements before they could gain traction. Using Gnostic practices, he reinterpreted narratives to strengthen the Church's doctrine. His ability to transform esotericism into a political weapon is something that still inspires both admiration and fear today. Imagine controlling not just what people believed but also what they had access to question in the first place. During the Council of Trent, many believe the Grey Pope utilized supernatural entities to ensure the success of his maneuvers. Secret invocations provided foresight and protection while visible leaders debated religious doctrines. These rituals, conducted away from public view, were crucial to maintaining the Church's stability. He understood that, in times of change, faith alone would not suffice, it was necessary to wield forces beyond the natural. This blend of pragmatism and occultism cemented his position as one of history's most intriguing and feared figures. As the Council of Trent drew to a close, the actions of the Grey Pope resonated across all spheres of society. His strategies shaped not only the Church but also global politics. He manipulated shadows and lit flames where necessary, ensuring that Catholic doctrine was not just defended but fortified. It was as if every decision had a hidden purpose, intertwining the supernatural with the world's destiny. This mastery of shadows would carry forward, especially in the creation of the tribunals that would safeguard the doctrine in the century to come. The invisible tribunals coordinated by the Grey Pope were a cornerstone of his influence. Created to protect Catholic doctrine, these secret institutions operated with terrifying efficiency. Many believe these trials were guided not only by earthly rules but also by pacts sealed during occult rituals. Imagine a defendant judged not only for their actions but for the energy their intentions emitted, something the Grey Pope claimed to detect through esoteric practices. He turned faith into a shield, but also into a weapon. These tribunals were shrouded in mystery. Their proceedings took place in secret locations, hidden from public view and even from many within the Church. The Grey Pope understood that the strength of doctrine depended on its purity, and any threat was eliminated before gaining traction. Reformist leaders feared the invisible power of these institutions, where the supernatural and political intertwined. It was as if the tribunals were an extension of his strategic mind, controlling narratives and suppressing dissent. Gnostic practices played a fundamental role in these judgments. It is said that ancient texts, guarded under lock and key, were consulted to support decisions. The connection to occultism was not merely decorative, it formed the foundation of many actions. Imagine a tribunal where sentencing was determined not only by evidence but by visions obtained through invocations. The Grey Pope understood that the supernatural could be as compelling as logic if wielded correctly. Among the methods employed by the tribunals was psychological manipulation, reinforced by supernatural beliefs. Fear of the unseen and the demonic was used to control and reform. Those who dared challenge the Church faced not only earthly punishments but spiritual ones as well. It is fascinating to consider how the Grey Pope transformed the cult of the supernatural into a practical tool, eliminating adversaries while strengthening his position. This was one of the most subtle yet effective forms of control. The tribunals also played a geopolitical role. They were used to manipulate leaders and align interests covertly. Pacts were made in secret, ensuring entire nations remained loyal to the Church. For the Grey Pope, every alliance was a ritual, every negotiation an invocation. His ability to connect the visible with the invisible made these tribunals a symbol of absolute power. Nothing escaped their reach. Thus, the invisible tribunals shaped the structure of the Church and the world around it. Their judgments, often based on occult rituals and pacts with entities, reinforced doctrine while consolidating the Grey Pope's power. The influence of these practices would echo through the centuries, leaving a legacy that continues to inspire both admiration and fear. His ability to blend the esoteric with politics became the hallmark of his reign in the shadows. The Vatican's secret archives, one of the most enigmatic places in the world, are often associated with immeasurable secrets. Few know that the Grey Pope had unlimited access to these historical relics, using them as a strategic tool. Among the hidden shelves, rumors speak of esoteric texts, Gnostic treaties, and even invocation rituals written by hands long forgotten by time. For the Grey Pope, this arsenal of knowledge was not just a luxury but a powerful weapon. With it, he shaped narratives, decided who had access to the truth, and maintained an iron grip on what should be known. It is said that among these documents are forbidden books containing detailed descriptions of pacts and rituals with supernatural entities. Imagine a leader who, instead of relying solely on conventional politics, used occult knowledge to shape the world's destiny. The Grey Pope mastered the art of manipulating this information, sometimes suppressing controversial texts, other times reinterpreting them to align with the Church's interests. He used the supernatural pragmatically, turning myths into strategies and mysteries into weapons against his adversaries. The influence of these texts extended beyond the Church, even touching geopolitical decisions of the era. Among the most intriguing documents in the archives, it is believed there were astrological maps and guides on cosmic energies that the Grey Pope used to plan strategic moves. For him, Gnosticism was not just a philosophy but a practical science. Imagine the ability to predict political movements or identify the best moments for decisive actions. Some scholars claim he used these practices to ensure perfect alignment between the visible and the invisible. It was as if each of his decisions was a choreography, carefully guided by the occult forces he so skillfully manipulated. Access to the secret archives also allowed the Grey Pope to control historical narratives. When texts threatened the Church's hegemony, he made them disappear or altered their interpretations. This is how he consolidated power during the Counter-Reformation, silencing voices that could weaken Catholic faith. Esotericism was both an inspiration and a justification for these actions. He believed that protecting the Church sometimes meant manipulating the truth. Through this, he sealed a legacy of invisible control, where the occult and pragmatism were inextricably linked. Moreover, the archives served as the foundation for strategic alliances. Secret pacts between the Vatican and world leaders were sealed using esoteric knowledge preserved there. These documents not only recorded historical events but also provided detailed instructions on manipulating the supernatural in favor of the Church. For the Grey Pope, every signature on a treaty was like a ritual, every decision an invocation aligning the Church's interests with greater forces. He transformed the administration of faith into an almost magical practice, maintaining absolute control over what was known and believed. As we explore the archives and the practices of the Grey Pope, we realize that his influence transcended the boundaries of time and space. Each text hidden, each ritual recorded, and each narrative shaped were like bricks in the construction of his invisible empire. He understood that knowledge was power, especially when combined with faith and the supernatural. This duality between the visible and the occult is what makes his figure so fascinating. Moving into the modern era, we see how he used these tools even in the most devastating events in history, such as World War II. During World War II, the Vatican maintained a stance of strategic neutrality, but records suggest that this decision was heavily influenced by the Grey Pope. Behind the scenes, he orchestrated clandestine operations to protect the Church's interests. It is said that secret rituals were conducted to predict the war's developments, ensuring the Vatican was always one step ahead. Once again, esotericism intertwined with diplomacy, and the Grey Pope used his network of pacts to safeguard the Church's assets while assisting in sheltering persecuted refugees. Beyond his political acumen, the Grey Pope used the supernatural as a guide to balance the forces between the Allies and the Axis. Some accounts suggest he predicted military movements with the help of occult practices. Imagine an invisible leader shaping global decisions from within a spiritual fortress. While the world saw a neutral church, the Grey Pope acted as a covert strategist, protecting the Vatican from potential destruction. This neutrality was a carefully crafted facade, ensuring the Church was not seen as an enemy by either side, preserving its influence in the post-war era. Within the Vatican's corridors, it is said that the Grey Pope forged pacts with supernatural entities to secure protection during bombings. Invocations performed in secret ceremonies ensured the heart of the Church remained untouched, even as Rome faced massive destruction. For him, each ritual was a way to influence destiny, ensuring that the Church's faith and power prevailed. This use of the supernatural, combined with his political skill, turned the Vatican into a fortress of balance amid the chaos. It was a dangerous game, but one he mastered with finesse. Moreover, the Grey Pope used his influence to save lives, sheltering refugees within the Vatican walls and in secret properties. This act, though altruistic at first glance, was also a strategic maneuver. He understood that saving people of different religions and nationalities would secure a favorable position for the Church in the post-war world. Pacts made with local leaders ensured the success of rescue efforts, while rituals protected these sanctuaries from discovery. He was a strategist who always looked beyond the present, anticipating future repercussions. While many view the war as purely a military event, the Grey Pope saw it as an opportunity to reinforce the Church's role on the global stage. He utilized the secret archives and the esoteric knowledge contained within to influence diplomacy and shape alliances. Hidden pacts were formed to ensure that, regardless of the victor, the Vatican would remain unshaken. This blend of occultism, pragmatism, and strategic vision set his actions apart from any other leader. He understood that the Church's survival depended on balancing the visible and the invisible. When the war ended, the role of the Grey Pope remained hidden, but his actions left an undeniable impact. He had used the supernatural, esotericism, and Gnosticism to ensure the Church not only survived but thrived. Every decision, every pact, and every ritual was part of a greater plan. The legacy of this mysterious figure would continue to influence the course of history, proving that true power often resides in the shadows. With this, we move forward to the enduring impact of his presence in the world. The legacy of the Grey Pope is an enigma that challenges historians, theologians, and even the most curious esotericism scholars. Though his official existence has never been confirmed, his traces are undeniable. His actions were like whispers in the shadows, shaping the destiny of the Church and the world. It is said that he left encoded instructions within the secret archives, preserving his knowledge for future generations. Pacts forged during his reign ensured that the Church not only survived but thrived amidst challenges. The supernatural and pragmatism united in a balance that few leaders could achieve. The Grey Pope's influence is evident in historical events where crucial decisions were made behind closed doors. For instance, the Church's survival during the World Wars, diplomacy with political leaders, and even the suppression of ideas that could weaken Catholic doctrine. He understood that true power lay not only in words but in the control of narratives. Through rituals and invocations, he allegedly aligned supernatural forces to protect the Church. Even after his death, it is said that his legacy lives on in the Vatican's secret practices. One of the most fascinating marks of his legacy is how he used Gnosticism to reinterpret spirituality within Catholicism. He is said to have subtly introduced occult concepts, influencing doctrines and teachings. His followers, though secretive, carried forward his philosophy. He viewed the world not just as a physical battlefield but as a web of spiritual forces that could be manipulated. This unique understanding allowed him to shape the destiny of millions of believers, all without ever appearing publicly. The Vatican's survival during times of crisis is one of the greatest testaments to the impact of the Grey Pope. Secret pacts with entities and strategic alliances with world leaders protected the Church from external and internal threats. His use of occultism was not out of mere curiosity but as a tool to ensure the continuity of his vision. While others sought power through force, he wielded the invisible, proving that true control lies in what cannot be seen. Even today, the influence of his practices can be felt in the Vatican's most secretive structures. The Grey Pope also left a profound cultural impact, albeit indirectly. Books, conspiracy theories, and debates on occultism frequently mention his figure. To some, he is a symbol of cunning and strategy; to others, a leader who dangerously straddled the divine and the demonic. His intriguing duality inspires reflections on how power can be exercised in unexpected ways. If his story teaches anything, it is that knowledge and faith can be wielded to shape destiny in ways that transcend time and space. As we move forward in time, we see that the Grey Pope's legacy remains shrouded in mystery. He symbolizes the intersection of the supernatural and the pragmatic, the visible and the hidden. His methods, though controversial, ensured that the Church remained a relevant force in a constantly changing world. What remains for us now is to ponder the lessons left by this figure. Does invisible power still govern the Church's decisions? Are esotericism, pacts, and rituals merely echoes of a distant past, or do they still play a role today? Now that you know the secrets and strategies behind the figure of the Grey Pope, what are you willing to do with this knowledge? Can you see the invisible games of power around you? Are you ready to question the narratives that have been presented to you? Reflect on how this story can inspire your journey. How can you use what is hidden to shape your reality? If this topic has sparked your curiosity, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave a comment with the keyword Pacts of Power. Let's continue exploring mysteries and applying this knowledge to transform our lives.